Hey there. I don't know what they call this one. Maybe they call it pixelated. It's kind of, sort of how I feel. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm processing, and so I've got a journal called Abduction Programming. Seeing through it, night isn't real. No, it's kind of a long one. It's 10 pages long. Oh, I wanted to show you something. Just a minute. Oh, I put the other ones away. Well, this is from when I was handwriting my journals, and I just wanted to show you. This is 9 months from, gosh, is it 08 or 09? January, actually it's February through August, so I guess it's not even 9 months. This is how I would journal. The little spiral ring things are so messy when you tear the pages, so I got to using binder paper. And these accounting stiff folders are really great because they're expandable to quite a bit. And so who knows, maybe one day I'll start recording those. Meanwhile, what's been happening is that I go through phases, you probably do too, where if you get an interest in a certain thing, you'll do a search. I use anything but Google to search, and you'll find maybe half a dozen things that you want to watch. For me, I usually pick the longer ones. If I want to get into something, I want something that goes into some depth. And so I worked my way through. I did the last video today on the abduction phenomena, and it was Carla, somebody who's a little short redhead that's very, very good at being just plain and clear and factual. Dr. Carla something. And I noticed when I was watching it, first of all, I fell asleep. And I kind of nodded in and out of awareness. And then after I watched it, it was just exactly, you know, the rheostat that you have on a light switch, the dimmer, where you can turn it up or you can turn it down. It was just exactly as if the rheostat on me had been turned practically all the way down. I had no energy. I had no interest. It's like I wasn't here. There was a tone, an overall tone of sadness. And so I was just watching that, and it wasn't really too hard to associate it with the topic of the video that I'd been watching. And so we watch and observe. Now, part of my processing this is to journal it. And it's also not just a processing. It's like things are starting to come together in ways for me. I'm starting to see through certain things. So I think a part of this is simply the rise in frequency that we're all experiencing. And if we ride this roller coaster or this sleigh or whatever it is that we're riding in heart, that gives our intuition the very best chance to get through to us, because when we're in mind, it's too busy. The little hamster wheel thing, you know, drowns the still small voice out. So anyway, for what it's worth, here we go. This is a journal from 12/21. It was the second of that day. The Mayan day was 2 Jaguar. Jaguar is a very special day for me. That's my birthday. And so it's just always a really special day. It comes to me, I wrote, that there's something sinister going on here. So I want to expand on my running journaling on fear. Fear and the ET abduction programs by the Zetas, the Greys. I mentioned before how so many abductees and contactees are being shown these movies or holograms, whatever they are, of upcoming disasters, supposedly. In lurid detail, they're shown all sorts of trauma, terrible catastrophes. Their perspective is if they're walking through the streets where this devastation has come through, some of them. Now, while they're watching this stuff, they're being further programmed that this is man's fault. Things are being presented in such a way to make it seem obvious that it's mankind who is destroying our planet, how we're foolish and undeveloped as a race, barbaric. So, people are being emotionally traumatized by watching the moving pictures while being told again and again how we're at fault, how we're isolated and under quarantine as a race because we're so dangerous, such a mess. Now, this is classic, blatant programming. These people are not in a normal awake state of beta brainwaves. The movies that are so terrifying put them in an altered, much more suggestible state. And when they're in fear and terror, they are cut off from heart and cut off from higher self, their intuition, and all the rest of that. This is enhanced by their awareness that the ETs hold total power over them, and they can deliver terrible pain and discomfort against which their human captives can do absolutely nothing. So these people are suggestible in the extreme in this overtly powerless state. Now, if what they were being told was true, it wouldn't be quite so bad, would it? But of course, it's not. It's not the little guys, the regular Joes and Janes who are damaging the planet. It's the powers that were in league with the corporatists and with these alien beings. Much of the technology being used against us, against Gaia, has its origin in these ET societies. Now, seen this way, they are more responsible for what's happening than we are. I'm not saying that. I'm just seeking to bring some balance to this. Now, I am not at all meaning that we bear no responsibility at all for what is happening to our Earth. Every living being here does have some responsibility. Even in our powerlessness, we still bear some of the burden for it. It's one big play we're all playing our parts in, and everything is whole. It's all one. So while that is also true, what I want to point out is what's on the other hand. It's the power elite, the Illuminati, the powers that were, who are chemtrailing, mining, destroying the cetaceans, making war, and all of the rest of it. Mankind is getting louder and louder in our protesting. Even in the military, there is some pushback to their rotten agenda. And Occupy Wall Street, Occupy whatever, is an example of that. So the little guy is beginning to stand up. The responsibility we bear is that we didn't do this before. We were too complacent. I think we can all see that, and there are many out there still complacent, largely those still living completely encased within mind or body mind. So let us own all that. Now, let us also be fair. We are being terribly manipulated. We've been programmed from birth, so to approach anywhere near the truth, we've got to consider that. It's only fair. When I step back and look at what's happening, it's very clear who's in charge, and it isn't the people, that's for sure. The powers that were are so masterful at their control scheme, it's much like they're standing behind the scenes, operating the rest of us as mere puppets. That's what being in control means. We are being used. This is truly a prison planet, and money is the major tool of manipulation. The major means of it is fear. Between money and fear, they have total control, and they have close working relationships with the Zetas. They work together, and I hope you're aware of that. There are many humans, most of them probably military, who work side by side with the Zeta ETs and others. So let's sort this out. Who is really in control? Who then is really in charge of what's being done? Now, that wouldn't be us, my friends. This is so sinister because at the same time they program us into guilt and shame, blaming us for the actions they're taking. It's bizarre, but we're mostly so programmed that we don't even notice the flaw in their logic, and we won't as long as we're in fear. I'm here to point out that the whole premise is false, so anything that comes of it won't stand, won't hold water. Now let's look back at those ET movies of disaster and trauma. See the abductees being forced to watch such things repeatedly while being force-fed that everything that's wrong is our fault. They're here as the good guys, of course. That's their message. They can save us, save the planet. Yeah, right. My friends, there is a powerful program to amp up the fear level on this planet. This abduction program clearly has this aim. They want us in fear for at least two major reasons that I can see. One is that it feeds them. It's their meat. The other is to soften us up so that as soon as any disaster should occur, and don't put it past them to make that happen, we'll be primed to run on board their spaceships, which will conveniently just happen to show up. Now, can you see this whole scenario? Have you watched any of the abduction research videos? I'm not going to provide links for this because I don't encourage anyone to watch them. They're too negative. It would probably be good to watch one or two if you feel called to do that. Just be cautious about it and pay close attention to yourself. What you'll see if you watch them is some really wonderful people who are terribly traumatized. These abductees are often of the whole family line, and it takes over their lives in important ways. I bet they're all in PTSD, post-traumatic shock disorder. And it's pitiful, yes, but don't get into sympathy with this stuff. Like I said, my advice is don't watch. You probably know enough already. But if you do, then don't get sucked into belief in any of it. Be very skeptical. Don't pity anyone, for that's a doorway into your energy, and it can be manipulated. Remember, we are all powerful creator beings, even these ones acting out their victim roles. Disidentify, step back from it. And that's my suggestion if you watch. Now, I'm hoping that most of you know about this, so you have no need to go take any more of this stuff in. For the empaths among us, it's pretty painful. These people don't lead easy lives, even when the abductions are screened from their memories. On some level, they know. Besides, if you watch these videos, it may bring up your own memories. And that's what's been happening with me. It's no fun. And it may be a planted memory too. We can't trust diddly. So here's my overall point in this journal. I want to bring before your vision, I want to educate your vision so that you can see what's been going on with this. I want everyone educated. Once we know, once we see, we simply can no longer be manipulated this way. Fear is a nasty bugger to deal with, but vision, simply seeing what's going on from a deeper perspective, is one way to take back our power. Or maybe it's a symptom of us taking back our power. I don't know. Powerlessness is one of the most important traits the powers that were seek to inculcate in mankind, and they've done a fine job. They want us wussy, wimpy consumers, terrified of them and their awesome, amazing power over everything in our lives. That about covers it. Well, that's so over, it's not even funny. It just won't wash anymore. Not when people see through their big bag of cheap tricks. People, if I had to say what was to be the keynote, the very most important keynote for the whole year of 2012, it would be fearlessness. It would be taking our power back once again and stepping into our own divinity, our own power. To do this, we must disengage from them and their methodology. We must remove ourselves from their clutches. Now, naturally, this will entail some surrender. We can start with the media. Throw away your television. If you're not yet ready for that, then carefully, closely monitor your viewing. And that means internet media too. Don't take things in casually on the disaster subject. For this 1 year at least, give it up. You can take it up again later if you like. Though I doubt that you will. You see, they're really geared up to make 2012 the year they take total control. Fear and lies are their tools, but we don't have to cooperate as we've been doing in our ignorance thus far. Now that we see what they're doing, it's so easy to simply not watch the things they use to control us. Use the power of your ray of attention to place your attention on uplifting media instead. Raise your vibration. That really makes them angry. Now, in addition to surrendering all the disaster flicks and slanted media presentations, even and especially the supposed documentaries, there are some positive steps we can take. And the most important one is to process our fear, all of it. Be on the lookout for any anxiety or discomfort. There's usually fear hidden there. The watchword is, of course, watch and observe. I'm sure you guessed that. I wouldn't be surprised if Spirit was to bring forth more journals on processing fear, but I'm not the only one suggesting we do that or suggesting how. And Nelia Benz has an excellent and pleasantly short way to process fear. I bet there are any number of ways to do this, and it doesn't matter how it's done, just that it is. If you wanted to give Gaia the biggest, best present you possibly could, I'd seriously say that that would be to process your fear faithfully. This is the handle on us that the powers that were have and use all the time. We don't yet realize, because we haven't been looking, how much we're manipulated with fear. It's literally everywhere. It ties into our subconscious programming, and we're simply helpless before it, but only until we see through it. It's literally just like the Wizard of Oz getting busted in his little booth. The beast has been defanged and declawed and castrated. He's toothless now, and so is the fear. It simply dissolves. Now, getting to that point is no cakewalk. It takes commitment and resolve. Now, for a light being, that's nothing. We have it in spades. Just show us what's wrong and we'll swiftly take care of it. Oh, well, I'm flashing you again, I guess. Okay, we've got to remember that what's wrong is in us. It's really not out there, not in the world, not in the ETs or any of that. It's a part of the play. So that's another part of the big lie used to control us. We're taught that matter is solid and that there's really an external world out there. My friends, there isn't. There really and truly isn't. And once we deeply realize that, we'll go free. We'll probably pop right up into 5D. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened like that, really. Not only are all atoms 99.99999% nothingness, so are these bodies. So is everything. Nothing is solid. There's not even such a thing as solid. It's a mirage or hallucination brought on by belief. Pure and simple, we see what we expect to see. The observation problem again. Now, that one you might want to investigate. And remember, Dimitri Halley is a good one to watch. Also, keep the double slit experiment in physics in mind. That's the one where when the photons weren't being watched, they went through both slits, just like waves do. Yet, as soon as they were observed, even electronically and from a distance, they turned into particles. Interesting, huh? Do you really get what that is saying? Everything is wavicles, waves that only take form and substance when being observed. In other words, we see things into existence. They manifest strictly based on our expectations. Please get that. We have all massive programming that gets in the way of deeply comprehending this stuff. And that's why today's scientists go on as they do, as if it was business as usual, since these radical experiments took place. Well, the results were radical. Even though it's proved that there is literally no such thing as an objective observer, they still go on using the scientific method, which totally relies on that. It's bizarre. Their programming is so strong they can't see through it. It's even a bit pathetic. Between these quantum physics results and the work of people like Nassim Haramein, among others, the whole foundation of science has been laid waste. The underlying premises of it are wrong. So how can they go on? It doesn't make any sense unless you realize that what you're looking at is people under deep delusion, sheepling on. You see, it doesn't matter how high their IQ may be. Programming overcomes that. Heck, the high IQ might even be more of a drawback than an asset in such cases. Why? First, because they tend to be so proud and confident in what they know. They're swimming in assumptions which they take to be solid facts. They're as solid as an atom. To me, it's bizarre that the simple fact of the permeability, the almost non-existence of the atom doesn't stop science in its tracks. Yet we go on as before, relying on our assumptions that things are solid, even knowing beyond a scientific doubt that they are not. Do you see this? It's really crazy. I've made the case before that there can't possibly be night as we experience it on planet Earth. Our experience of 3D reality is largely a dream, just like the atom being solid when it's not. Our experience doesn't jive with the facts. I've put forth my reasoning before, but perhaps you haven't heard it, so I'll sketch it out briefly here. First, did you know that the sun is literally 1,000,000 times the size of the Earth? Ponder that, 1,000,000 times. Add to that our close proximity, only the third planet out. So, for comparison's sake, maybe we have one of those massive gym balls people use to roll on. Simply huge. And then we have a grain of rice or maybe a pea. That's the sun and the Earth. Now, light the gym ball up with the brilliance of the sun, really bright, and place the pea appropriately close to the sun, not very far away, relatively speaking. Now, my friends, please consider this. Our experience of night is but the shadow of the Earth, since the sun is on the other side when it's dark. Now, how much of a shadow do you think that pea is going to make? The reality is it won't cause an appreciable shadow at all. Its far side will be shaded right there in the center, and there will be the merest bit of shadow extending out a short way, nothing more. With the sun 1,000,000 times larger than our pea-sized planet and so close, the sun's rays will easily meet and join up on the other side of the Earth. The tiny shadow will be negligible completely. Nothing like our experience of night at all. Now, yes, you have to be in heart to be able to appreciate this. Our programming, our delusion, is so very deep that mind cannot easily let this in. It would be too devastating to mind to think that it could be so wrong about something so basic and so huge. So be in heart then. Ponder this. Those astro-wheelie things used in schools to show the relative motion of the solar system to the sun are so badly out of proportion as to be, they're worse than useless. Remember, 1,000,000 times larger than the Earth. 1,000,000 times! Take that in. We have never, no, not once, been given any illustration of right proportion for this. And that, too, was part of the programming. The fact is that the sun never stops shining, and stars don't either. There is no night the way we experience it. It's a total mirage, brought on by our beliefs, pure and simple. We get what we expect, and that's what we were trained to expect. The fact that it's not possible has nothing to do with it. We're creator gods, little g, and this is evidence of that. We're that powerful, just as we are to create solidity out of empty atoms. Now, are you shaken a bit? Or are you shaken a lot by this? Look at yourself there. How are you feeling? Were you able to let any of that penetrate? Or were you so defensive of your ideas of reality that you had to hold it at a distance? Now, there's nothing wrong with this either way. I'm just helping you self-observe here. We have deep, intense programming on this and so many things that we're just not aware of. We're used to seeing things in a certain way, the way we've been trained to, and that's what we see. We were never told that our belief is creating our experience of things. We were never informed of the amazing power wielded by our vision, our expectations, our assumptions. So we never questioned it. You don't know what you don't know. Now, whatever your experience here, do be nice to you. No self-criticism allowed. You'll get detention for that. Love yourself through the crazy things that are on the menu for us during the big shift, which we are going through every day, bit by bit. Our whole system of beliefs, our whole reality will be challenged again and again. So let's do it ourselves. Let's play with it. Let's get used to it in a fun sort of way. That'll defang their tools of terror. This is coming on us in bits and pieces purely out of mercy, the way I see it. It would be just too much to take very much of this sort of thing in at once. It would be crushing. So play with paradox, play with pretzeling the mind. Get used to the free-wheeling feeling of running off pondering, absent the mind's active presence. Challenge your beliefs, in other words. Have some fun with this. I find it tremendously enjoyable. It's truly great fun for me. Sure, it's shocking at first when the idea first comes, but once that wears off, oh my, what a grand time can be had. We're drawing closer and closer to levels of truth, my friends, and truth is a stranger to 3D. This is not a level for that. We, as light beings, are also truth lovers. It's in our blood. Give us the truth or leave us alone. We don't want to be bothered otherwise. Nothing is worth anything unless it leads to truth. Does that resonate with you? Don't expect to find real truth here in 3D. That's not possible. That's why in the East it's neti, not this, not that. They well know that you can't state truth. The closest you can come is to say what it's not. And while it may sound a bit crazy to the Western mind, it's actually deeply wise. Only as we begin to awaken can we appreciate the beauty of this way of approaching real truth. It's simply beautiful. Real truth is too deep, too sacred, too whatever for words. The Tao Te Ching opens this way. It's in all the sacred writings, this recognition of the wordlessness of anything true. All we can do is approximate it, but it's best if we know that's all we can do. Otherwise, we're in danger of believing something when nothing said by words can possibly be true. Thus, don't believe a thing I've said here, of course. I never want your belief in me. Instead, let us all believe only in Source, only in the Divine One within, Higher Self. Let us believe in that and simply nothing else. Let the rest just be our experience, that which comes and goes, that which is transitory, and that which may point to truth. Love is the only way, my friends. Truth is love. Love is truth. All capitalized. We're dealing with what could be called divine attributes now. We've transitioned over into the danger zone, talking about things that are divine. This is when it is of utmost importance not to be in the least attached to anything that is said. Develop no beliefs around such things. What I offer by way of beliefs amounts to tools for changing our programming, but it's still neti. What I offer is not truth. What seems wise to me at this time is that replacing deeply flawed beliefs with ones much closer to truth is useful in our approach to freedom. So it's not that having any beliefs at all is wrong or harmful. I can only hope at this point that some at least have followed me, and those will be the ones more comfortable abiding in heart. Let's all hold all beliefs lightly. Let us choose for ourselves those beliefs that seem best at the time, and then holding them lightly too, let us be ever ready to replace them with ones that may be closer to truth that we find tomorrow. Do you see? This is truly walking in both worlds. Truth cannot fit into words, yet we need to use words, so we do the best that we can. Let the one with the highest vision speak and share it with the rest of us, so that we may faithfully tend our garden of belief. Let all speak and share their highest wisdom and understanding, thus bringing us all an opportunity to improve the beauty of our garden. Thank you, and God bless you, each one. I am frankly high in the writing of this. It began to happen about halfway through. Wow. The beauty of life is amazing. It's so awesome that we can be in what seemed a trap, a terrible prison only a bit ago. Yet now all this beauty shines through. How can that be? I truly don't know. Be empowered, my friends. Keep weeding that garden. Keep those baby blues wide open and focused inward on yourself. That's the way. You may stumble around for a bit. I know I do. Getting your balance in this new way of being. It will be well worth any effort you make. Effortlessness itself cannot be far away.